When you have that attitude that money is evil or money is bad, or people with money are evil or bad or motivated by the wrong things, you can actually start making daily decisions that will undercut your own financial security. Welcome to the Sunlight Podcast. In this show, we're talking about taxes, money, and careers for creative people who have a big vision for changing the world with their work. I'm your host, Hannah Cole, artist, tax pro, and the founder of Sunlight Tax. If you're an artist, designer, or creative entrepreneur who wants to grow your business sustainably, manage your taxes, and build a stash of fuck you money so you can control your own time and have a bigger impact with your work, you are in the right place. Hey, I'm interrupting my own podcast to tell you about a contest I am running just to help get this show off the ground with a little more visibility. It helps me so much when you subscribe to the show, rate it, review it, and share it with your friends. So I'm running a contest to help make this more fun. So I'm giving away 10 one-on-one consultations with me, which are Ask Me Anything consultations. You can ask me anything you want to about your taxes or financial situation. Winners will be announced Friday, September 16th. And here's what you have to do to enter to win one of those 10 spots. You have to subscribe to the show, rate the show, write a review of the show. It doesn't have to be long, but it should be genuine. And share the show with 3 friends. Use the little clicky button on Apple's Podcasts or Spotify. Then take a screenshot of your review, post it to your stories, and tag at Sunlight Tax. And that's going to be how I know you've done those things. Winners will be announced September 16th. Good luck. Back to the show. Hello. Welcome. Today, I want to talk to you about why an artist and person who's always been concerned with social justice issues, pretty active and civically engaged, why am I constantly talking about money? Why did I decide to start a company dedicated to giving financial information and tax help to artists, creative people, and small businesses, to self-employed people? Yeah, that's a good question. Well, I think because of my creative practice at Sunlight Tax, I have done the taxes of many creative people, and I see patterns over and over again, right? So I look at the actual finances of people in the art world, performers, designers, and sole proprietors of every variety. And these tend to be people very similar to me in the sense that you are motivated by social justice issues. You want to see a fairer, more equitable world. And like most creative people, you are putting empathy and empathetic values out into the world. To me, this is the work I want to see in the world, right? I do this work because to me, when creative people have money and financial security, they can do more of their work. They can do their work more boldly. They can put more of it out there. They can have a bigger reach and a bigger impact with it. And what is the work they're doing, right? When you are a creative person doing your work, you're building empathy, you're building bridges, you are showing people new possibilities, giving them access to new experiences. If you're in the fine arts, this may be about beauty. It may be about creating connection. It may be about envisioning the future, helping other people see a better future. If you're in design, I think good design is about empathy too. All good design is about empathy. Ultimately, it's about being in the shoes of the user and seeing how they walk through that space, how they navigate that website or app, how they sit in that car, right? That's what design is, basically. It is empathy. And for social justice oriented, creative small businesses, you are usually out there solving a problem, right? You are out there trying to improve the world with a creative solution. You are bringing to market your idea for how to improve somebody's life. So I think those are really incredibly important aims. And that is what I want to further in the world through my work which is helping you to have financial security. So why does this matter? Why am I talking about money all the time? Why do I care so much about creative people having financial security? Well, let's get personal for a minute. I mean, I have had lifelong experiences that have taught me that you cannot avoid money. And so I just want to talk a little bit about what those have been. When I was little, I mean, I've been interested in equity and the environment forever, right? When I was in the 6th grade, I saw a photograph, this like baked caked earth. And I remember my teacher telling me, oh, that used to be a rainforest. And I had studied the rainforest in science class. And I knew that it was like biodiversity and all this possibility for new medicines. And it was like an incredibly cool place. And I knew they were being chopped down. And when I saw this picture of the like before and after of this piece of rainforest, I was completely heartsick. And I was like, we have to do something. And I got my friend involved in this and I decided we would do something, right? I was like, what can we do? What can we do to save the rainforest? This is me, a little 6th grader in Massachusetts. Well, at the time I was really into Ben and Jerry's. There was like a Ben and Jerry's scoop shop had opened up in our town recently. And they had this flavor called Rainforest Crunch. And I basically figured out that we could sell Rainforest Crunch and donate the proceeds to this rainforest organization. I no longer even remember what the organization was. But anyway, so we like set up a stand and we would just like sit at recess and sit at the book fair and sell Rainforest Crunch and donate the proceeds to the environment. But I think even at the time when I asked the question of like, what can I do to save the rainforest? The answer was raise money. Right? If you ask any person who is like a director of a nonprofit doing the greatest work in the world, whatever work that is, like pick a nonprofit. What's the most important thing that the director has to do or has to get good at? Raising money, right? So this is not a mystery, but I just constantly was shocked as I was like trying to, do my small part in righting wrongs and fixing things and creating political change as a young person. Every single time I got stopped, the grown-ups, the higher ups, the powers that be would come and tell me basically, oh, this is a really cute, sweet little project, little girl. But ultimately it comes down to the money, right? So every time I wanted to get something done, make something right in the world, correct or wrong, someone in a position of authority would say, well, what does the money say? Because that's ultimately what is going to lead us. So it was actually a pretty clear lesson to me, even from as early as the 6th grade, that if you didn't address the money side, you weren't going to get where you wanted to go. So I think many experiences have shown me that this is pretty just universally important. I remember protesting. Like I remember there was some law passed in Massachusetts about where you couldn't raise taxes more than 2.5%. And what it was effectively going to mean in my town was there wasn't enough money to continue the art program. And they were threatening to cut art and music class. These were my 2 favorite classes. I really cared. And my parents pulled me and my brother down to the kitchen and we all made signs and we went to City Hall or Town Hall and we protested and we advocated for a 2.5% override, right? This was like a big initiative in our town, our relatively small town, or in Arlington, Massachusetts, that I grew up in. And I just remember oh, okay, so taxes mean I get to stay in art class. Taxes mean they won't cut my art class. So again, this is like a real early formative experience for me. Pretty funny that I now run a tax company. I think civics and civic engagement has been a real theme of my life. It's something I find really critically important. And who's funding things, what gets funded. When you are a fine artist, it's really clear that you get the scraps, in school. And so it's just interesting that you can develop a real attitude about what that means, right? And so I want to loop back to that because I do see an attitude that is very pervasive among people who are oriented towards social justice and oriented towards creative work that I think really hurts us. And so I want to talk about that. But I think when you are a creative person and you are used to making do with less, you are used to your programs not being funded very well. Just to illustrate from my own life, when I got my master's in fine arts at Boston University, I remember taking a little trip that I remember being really upset about the budget. Like, we need new easels. Like, easels are not a really expensive piece of equipment. And in fact, the easels at BU were made by sculpture students. They actually welded the easels there. So I can't imagine they cost much money at all. And yet somehow we didn't have enough, and we needed a lot were broken and we needed more, and they wouldn't give us the money for them. And I remember just taking a walk down Commonwealth Avenue to the business school just to look, right? Just one time I just went to look, and I walked in the door, and it was a marble foyer. There was a fountain in the middle of this big hall in the business school. And I was like, what the ever loving fuck? Like, you can't let us have like a couple $100 for easels, which we can't make our work without. And these guys have a fountain. You're paving the entrance with marble. The inequity of that it floored me. But I guess I can understand it, right? So anyway, as an art student, you're kind of used to like not getting the best treatment, making do with much less, and being treated like, basically your work is not as valuable as the business school students. So I think that this attitude can kind of start to filter into your own head, right? So there are structural and systemic reasons why this underfunding of the arts exists, but it doesn't need to get into your own brain and inform the way you do your practice for the rest of your life, right? I think that's a really key takeaway here. So when creative people have money, right? When you have more income and when you have financial security, you are able to have more power and agency in your life, in your career, and in your work. You are able to get more of it out there. You are able to do bigger and more ambitious projects. You are able to have a bigger impact, and you're able to have a broader reach. So it really matters. Having funding matters. Money matters, right? And if you are so worried about making rent, or one day retiring, or sending your kids to college, even being able to have kids at all, you just cannot be fully present and focused in your work. And you will often be put in a position to make decisions that are not actually the best decisions for you, your life, your work, right? You can be forced to compromise in ways you don't want to because of money. And that's a thing I would like to never happen to another creative person, so long as we all live. Hey, I'm interrupting my own podcast to tell you about a contest I am running just to help get this show off the ground with a little more visibility. It helps me so much when you subscribe to the show, rate it, review it, and share it with your friends. So I'm running a contest to help make this more fun. So I'm giving away 10 one-on-one consultations with me, which are Ask Me Anything consultations. You can ask me anything you want to about your taxes or financial situation. Winners will be announced Friday, September 16th. And here's what you have to do to enter to win one of those 10 spots. You have to subscribe to the show, rate the show, write a review of the show. It doesn't have to be long, but it should be genuine. And share the show with 3 friends. Use the little clicky button on Apple's Podcasts or Spotify. Then take a screenshot of your review, post it to your stories, and tag @Sunlight Tax. And that's going to be how I know you've done those things. Winners will be announced September 16th. Good luck. Back to the show. So what motivates me personally is not money, right? And actually, I'm interested in you because I don't think money is what motivates you either, right? There's a really interesting balance that happens with our focus or lack of focus on money. When you are in this world, kind of used to being the underfunded one, having a threat of budget cuts, having everybody who's paying you always say, oh, that's not in the budget. We don't have budget for that, et cetera, et cetera. Whether you're a designer, whether you're a fine artist, doing commission-based work, public art, whatever it is. It's really easy to internalize those attitudes about money. So I just want to talk for a minute about not internalizing the world's attitudes about creative work and where money belongs in that work. Here's a framework for you. I want you to think about this, thinking about what motivates you when you do your work. When you're a creative person working for yourself, you are probably not motivated primarily by money. Many of us are not, right? It's rare to find an artist who went into the arts to make money, like for the money specifically, right? Now, wanting to make a great living, that's a wonderful and a worthy goal, and I'm all for it, right? But you probably didn't become an artist thinking you were going to become rich, right? Like if that was your primary motivation, you probably went into private equity, right? Or a hedge fund. So if that's your primary motivation, you probably didn't end up in this world. The people in this world are probably motivated by other things like building bridges, creating empathy, creating beauty, creating connection, things like that, social justice. And those are wonderful things, and I'm all for them. But when those things are motivating you, it's important to keep in mind that you still need money. You need money to just fund the work that you do. You need money in your bank account so that you have enough space to rest and have the ultimate rest, retirement, like financial security, that one day you don't have to work until the day you die. Those things are super, super important, right? But when money is not your primary motivation, and I'm not asking you to make it your primary motivation, it is completely okay to be driven by service, community, beauty, connection, all those wonderful things. But when money is not your primary motivation and you're used to it being scarce, what I find is that a lot of creative people can take this thing that should be neutral, right? Money is a tool. It is a neutral thing. It has no agency of its own. And you can start to actually attribute negative qualities to it. So instead of being neutral, it becomes actually negative to you. Now you start looking at money as though money is the bad thing, or people with money are bad, right? And you have to be really, really careful when that attitude slips into your life, and it can come in very quietly and creep in there. And one day it's a full-blown presence in your life. When you have that attitude that money is evil or money is bad, or people with money are evil or bad or motivated by the wrong things, you can actually start making daily decisions that will undercut your own financial security, your own ability to be paid properly, your own ability to make enough to live on, to have the spaciousness, to think, to create, to rest, and to have a good quality of life. So I want you to think about that. Think about the idea of if you walked into a job interview and you had this attitude that money is evil, money is bad, or people with money are bad. If you walk into a job interview and you're asked that question, like, what do you expect? What are your salary expectations? How do you think you're going to answer that question? Do you think you're going to do justice to what you rightfully deserve in that job? Are you going to negotiate hard? Probably not. You probably will quietly be suppressing the amount of money that you actually ask for. You will not do that really difficult, heart-wrenching thing and give the big ask. So there's actually research that supports the fact that this happens, especially with people who are socialized as female, that we are taught that it is bad for us to focus on money, talk about money, ask for money, need money, right? And that women in salary negotiations have some real historic odds against them. It's already very difficult. But interestingly, there is some research that said that when women focus on other people in their life and what that money will do, women especially, it is especially helpful to picture other people you will help with your money. So if that's what it takes for you, hey, take this. If you just walk into a situation like that where you have to name your price or talk about what your salary expectations are, Think about who in your life is depending on you. Think about, just do a little meditation for a couple minutes before you walk in. I have 2 daughters. I want to show them that I can be paid what my work is worth. I have 2 daughters and I want to send them to the best college that I am capable of sending them to. Whatever college they get into, I want to be able to afford to pay for. That is highly motivational for me. And that will help me actually do the hard thing, say the hard thing to the person I'm talking to, the gatekeeper, the money holder. So I hope that that framework helps you. I also want to just tell you about this book by Barbara Stanny that I have really loved, Overcoming Under-Earning. This is a great book that talks about this attitude and how it can really influence your life in a bad way. But this also has some skills and mental frameworks for you to work on how to get out of it, how to kind of coach yourself into a better relationship with money. And I just want you to understand that you don't have to worship money. It doesn't have to be the primary motivator in your life. You just have to treat it as neutral, right? Money is, in fact, just a tool. Money amplifies the person behind it, the person who has it. So if you are holding a hammer, right, you can tear down a house with a hammer. You can do a massive amount of damage with a hammer, but you can build a house with it too. So money is just a hammer, right? Think about it in that way. It helps further your aims. It helps amplify the voice of the person who has it. So I want to talk about who needs money, who needs more political power and representation. And the entire reason I created my business, Sunlight Tax, is for people like you. People who have that broader, deeper mission of helping people, of creating connection and empathy, of social justice work. You, because you are not primarily motivated by money, you're the person I think who needs money, who needs a financial education, who needs financial security, because almost by definition, you are the one doing the work I want amplified in the world, right? This is selfish on my part. This is the work I think is important and I want to see in the world. And if you are a creative person, especially someone from a historically marginalized group, then I think you are the person who needs this information, who needs to see money as neutral and not evil, who needs more of it in your life so that you can do more of that fantastic work you are doing, so that your voice can be heard, so you can be better represented in our society at large, right? I think it's really easy to get this backwards, to look at all the people you see who have money, who have power, and be like, oh my God, they're all white dudes, right? Listen, some of my best friends are white dudes, okay? I'm not trying to say you're all evil if you are listening. Of course not. But yeah, are white men overrepresented in circles with money and power? Hell yes. Hell yes. And I think it's really easy to look at that if you are anyone who is not a cis white dude and be like, well, that's not for me. That's not who I am. So that's not for me. And I'm here to say that's exactly why that is for you, right? Because we need your voice there. So if all you see are people who don't look like you with money and power, it's pointing to where the hole is. That hole is shaped like you, and you need to be the one. You need to be there representing, holding some power with your voice there. It means you are not currently being represented. So I don't want you to get this backwards and be like, people like me don't have money, so we're going to stay this way. No, this is why we should do this work and become more financially savvy and secure so that we can put forward our values, our perspective. All right. I think that's a good place to end it today. I hope that that mental framework of shifting your attitude about money from evil to simply neutral, thinking of money as a tool, I think that's a really important mental framework for you, and it will help you. I will discuss this on many future episodes. I have many more thoughts about this. Thank you so much for listening, y'all. If you enjoyed today's episode, would you do me a really wonderful favor and share this with a friend who needs to hear it? You can take a picture, take a screenshot of this podcast and share it on your Instagram stories. Feel free to tag me and I'll say hi. But that is really, really helpful as I launch this podcast and get it off the ground, helping other people who might need it know that it is out there for them. All right. Thank you so, so much. It's been wonderful to talk to you. Bye, y'all. Thank you for listening. If you like the show, be sure to subscribe, leave a review. It really helps, and share it with a friend. I'm so grateful. This podcast is for education and entertainment only. Nothing in this episode should be taken as individual tax or financial advice. You can find all the tools, books, and links we reference at sunlighttax.com/podcast.